Part 1, The Conversation That Shattered Everything. I never thought I'd be writing something like this here, but honestly I don't know where else to put it. My brain feels like it's splitting in half, and I keep going over the same sentences in my head like they're stuck on repeat. My dad isn't my dad. He said I was born because of my mom's affair with his best friend. It sounds like the plot of some soap opera you'd scroll past on Netflix, but this is my actual life now. I'm 24M. For as long as I can remember, I thought I grew up in a pretty normal family. Sure, we weren't perfect, who is? My parents bickered sometimes, but they stayed together, and they raised me the best they could. Or at least, that's what I thought until last Sunday. It started with something so mundane it almost makes me laugh now. My dad asked me to come by his house to help him move some heavy boxes out of the garage. He's 56, his back isn't what it used to be, and I've always been the designated muscle of the family. So I went, thinking I'd spend an hour or two lifting stuff, maybe grab a beer with him after, call it a day. I didn't expect my entire world to flip upside down. We finished hauling the boxes, and I noticed he seemed weirdly quiet. Not just tired quiet, but the kind of silence where you know something's brewing. He kept looking at me like he was trying to memorize my face. At one point I asked, half joking, "Everything good, old man? You look like you're about to give me a lecture or tell me you're moving to Florida." He chuckled, but it was hollow. Then he sat down on the workbench, rubbed his hands together like he was trying to start a fire, and said the words that I swear will haunt me forever. "You should know the truth before it comes out some other way. I'm not your biological father." At first I thought it was a joke. Like, some messed up dad humor. I even laughed nervously and went, "Yeah, right." But he didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. His eyes were watering. I just froze. My mind went blank and a million miles an hour at the same time. Finally I managed to get out. "What do you mean? What the hell are you talking about?" And that's when he told me. Apparently, when my mom was in her mid-20s, around the time she got together with him, she had an affair with his best friend, a guy I actually know. His name's Mark. I grew up calling him Uncle Mark. He was at birthdays, BBQs, holidays. He gave me my first baseball glove when I was 7. My dad, well, the man I thought was my dad, said he found out about the affair when I was just a baby. My mom came clean to him in some emotional breakdown, confessed that I might not be his kid. But here's the kicker, he never told me. He decided to stay with her, raise me as his son, and just swallow the truth. Until now. I didn't know what to say. I literally felt my throat close up. I just sat there staring at him, like if I blinked, the whole thing would reset and I'd wake up back in the garage hauling boxes. But he kept going. He said he always wanted to tell me, but he didn't want to ruin my childhood. He figured it didn't matter because he loved me like his own. He raised me, after all. He was there for every scraped knee, every science fair, every heartbreak. He said he thought I'd always see him as dad no matter what. And then he said this part, the part that really broke me. "But I can't carry this secret anymore. And you deserve to know who you really are." I asked him why now. Why tell me at 24, when I've already built my whole identity around this family? His answer? Because Mark has been reaching out to him. Apparently Mark has cancer. Stage 3, maybe stage 4. And he wants to see me. He wants to meet me as his son, before it's too late. That's when I lost it. I stood up, paced the garage, my chest tight. "You've known my whole life and you just decide to dump this on me now? You think I'm supposed to just, what? Call him dad? What the hell am I supposed to do with this, huh?" My voice cracked and I felt tears coming, which only pissed me off more. I don't cry in front of people, especially not him. But there I was, crying like a kid, and he just sat there looking gutted. I left. I didn't even stay for dinner. I just got in my car and drove around aimlessly for like 2 hours until I ended up parked outside my own apartment, staring at the steering wheel like it had answers for me. Since then, I haven't been able to think about anything else. I keep replaying every moment of my life, trying to see if there were signs. Like, I remember once when I was 12, a kid at school said I didn't look like my dad, and I brushed it off. Or how Mark always seemed extra interested in me, asking about school, showing up at my games even when I wasn't that good. I thought he was just being supportive. Was he secretly trying to be involved in my life? I don't even know who I am anymore. I haven't spoken to my mom yet. Honestly, I don't know how to. What do I even say? Hey, remember that affair you had 25 years ago? Cool, it turns out I'm the product of it. I feel sick just thinking about confronting her. And Mark, do I meet him? Do I ignore him? Do I let a dying man see his son, even though I don't know if I want him to be my father? My whole identity feels fake right now. The man I thought was my dad raised me, but genetically I'm someone else's. My mom has been lying to me my entire life by omission. And the guy who might be my real dad is dying and suddenly wants a relationship. It's too much. The worst part is I can't even tell my friends. Like, how do you casually drop this into conversation? Oh yeah, by the way, found out my dad isn't my dad, my mom cheated, and now I might have a new father figure who's on chemo. It sounds insane. So here I am, posting to strangers on the internet because it feels safer than telling anyone I actually know. If you've ever had something like this happen, finding out you're not who you thought you were, how do you even begin to process it? Do I meet Mark? Do I confront my mom? Do I forgive my dad for hiding it? I feel like whatever I do, I'm going to lose something, either my sense of identity, or my trust in my parents, or maybe both. Right now, I just keep hearing that sentence on repeat in my head. I'm not your biological father. And the silence that came after. That silence is louder than anything I've ever heard. Part 2, Confrontations and Confessions. So, after I posted here last time, I spent 2 days in this weird limbo state where everything felt fake. Like, I'd wake up, brush my teeth, go to work, talk to people, but in the back of my head it was just this non-stop buzzing. My dad isn't my dad. My mom cheated. My real father is dying and wants to see me. I couldn't concentrate on anything. My boss asked me to redo a report I'd written, and I just stared at the screen for 10 minutes before realizing I hadn't typed a single word. Even my friends noticed I was acting off, but I kept brushing it off with, just tired. I didn't have the energy to explain the nuclear bomb that just went off in my life. But I knew eventually I had to confront my mom. I went over to my parents' house. I guess I should just say my mom's house now, because everything feels different with my dad, on Wednesday night. She was in the kitchen making dinner, humming to herself, like nothing in the world was wrong. I stood there for a minute, just watching her, and I swear it was like looking at a stranger. Like, how could she be so casual, chopping onions and singing off-key to the radio, when my entire existence had just been ripped apart? Finally, I blurted it out. Why didn't you ever tell me? She froze mid-chop. The knife clattered onto the cutting board. She turned slowly and looked at me, eyes wide, and I knew immediately, she knew exactly what I was talking about. Her lips trembled. Your father told you. Don't call him that right now, I snapped. My voice cracked, which pissed me off because I wanted to sound strong, not like some hurt kid. He told me I'm not his. He told me you had an affair. He told me Mark is my real dad. She covered her mouth with her hand and started crying. And listen, I've seen my mom cry before, but this was different. This was messy, snotty, guilt-ridden sobbing. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. And for a second, I almost softened. Almost. But then the anger kicked in. You've been lying to me my whole life. Do you even realize what this does to me? Everything I thought I knew about myself, about this family, it's all fake. You let me grow up calling him dad, you let me look at Mark like some family friend when he's actually I couldn't even finish the sentence. The word father got stuck in my throat like poison. She sat down at the table and put her face in her hands. I was scared, she whispered. I thought if you knew, you'd hate me. I thought I could protect you from it. Protect me? By building my entire life on a lie? I was pacing the kitchen at this point, running my hands through my hair, because I didn't know if I wanted to scream or cry or both. She kept talking though, voice trembling. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. Your dad and I, we were having problems back then. I was young, I was stupid. Mark was there. It was one night, and I regretted it immediately. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know if it was him or your dad. But when I saw you grow, when I saw how much your dad loved you, I told myself it didn't matter. That blood didn't matter. Love did. I laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, it matters now. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I couldn't let her touch me. My whole body recoiled like her hand was fire. You have every right to be angry, she said. I should have told you. I should have told you years ago. I didn't want to lose you. Or him. I thought we could all just keep living like nothing happened. I wanted to yell, to ask how she could be so selfish, but instead I just stood there, silent, because I realized something. As much as I hated hearing it, there was a part of me that understood. Not forgave, but understood. She was scared. She was human. She made a mistake, and she spent 24 years covering it up. But that didn't erase the damage. Finally, I asked the question that had been eating at me since Sunday. Did Mark know? She hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. Yes, she said softly. He knew. I told him when you were little. But your father begged him to stay away. To let us raise you as ours. He agreed. Until now. My stomach dropped. So all those years he was around, all those games he came to, all the birthday presents, he knew? He knew he was my dad? Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. I felt sick. I stormed out before I could say anything else. I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. As I drove away, I could still hear her sobbing echoing in my head. When I got home, I just sat in the dark. My phone buzzed, texts from my mom, then from my dad, then even from Mark. Yes, Mark. He'd apparently gotten my number from one of them. The message was simple. I know this is overwhelming. I don't expect anything from you. But I'd love to see you, even just once. Please. I stared at that text for what felt like an hour. My hands were shaking. I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. But later that night, after tossing and turning in bed, I typed back 3 words. When and where? We met 2 days later at a diner on the edge of town. Neutral territory. When I walked in, I almost turned around and left. Because there he was, sitting in a booth, looking older and frielier than I remembered. His hair was thinner, his skin pale. He looked like someone who'd aged 10 years in 5. But his eyes lit up when he saw me. God, you look just like your mom, he said as I sat down. Then, after a pause, and a little like me, I think. I didn't say anything at first. I just sipped my coffee and stared at him, trying to feel something. Anger, sadness, connection, anything. But it was just numbness. He started talking. He told me about his diagnosis, how the doctor said it doesn't look good. He said he doesn't want to disrupt my life, he doesn't want to take away the man who raised me, but he couldn't die without at least trying to know me. Then he reached into his wallet and pulled out an old photo. It was me, maybe 4 years old, sitting on his shoulders at a picnic. I don't even remember the photo being taken, but there it was. Proof he'd been around, even when I didn't realize what he was to me. Do you hate me? He asked quietly. I should have said yes. I wanted to say yes. But the truth is more complicated. Because as messed up as this whole thing is, I don't hate him. I hate the situation. I hate the lies. I hate that my life feels like it's been rewritten overnight. But him? He looked so broken, so desperate, that I couldn't summon hatred. I don't know what I feel, I admitted. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I was being honest. We talked for 2 hours. About nothing and everything. About my childhood, about his regrets, about the fact that he thought about me every single birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. He said he kept photos, little mementos, like he was building a secret shrine of the son he couldn't claim. When I finally left the diner, my head was spinning. Because for the first time, I realized I didn't just have one father, I had two. One who raised me, and one who made me. And somehow, they'd both been living with this secret for decades. That night, lying in bed, I thought about the three of them, my dad, my mom, and Mark. This toxic triangle that shaped my entire life without me even knowing. And I realized something scary. The only person who can decide how this story ends is me. But I don't know if I have the strength to choose. Part 3, The Weight of Two Fathers. I don't think I've ever been this tired in my life. Not physically, emotionally. Every day since I met Mark feels like walking around with a backpack full of bricks that nobody else can see. People at work keep asking if I'm okay, if I'm sick, if I'm depressed. And I just smile and say I'm fine, when really my insides feel like they're made of broken glass. After that diner meeting, I thought I'd feel something. Relief? Closure? Maybe even curiosity? But instead it was like a second bomb went off. Because now I can't unsee it. Every time I look in the mirror, I start searching for his features in my face. My nose, my jawline, even the way I tilt my head. It's like my own reflection has become a stranger. And then there's the guilt. Because no matter how much I try to tell myself otherwise, a part of me wants to know him. To spend time with him before it's too late. And that feels like betrayal to the man who raised me. I finally sat down with my dad, the man who raised me, I mean. I couldn't avoid him forever. He texted me, "Come by. Please. We need to talk." So I went. When I walked into the living room, he was sitting in his old recliner, the same one I used to climb onto as a kid when I wanted to watch cartoons. Except this time, instead of cartoons, there was just this heavy silence between us. He looked older. Or maybe I was just seeing him differently. "I'm sorry," he said before I even sat down. His voice cracked. "I should have told you sooner. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was protecting all of us." I sat across from him and stared at my hands. "You let me grow up believing a lie." "I let you grow up with a father," he corrected softly. "Maybe not the one who gave you DNA, but the one who stayed. The one who was there. And damn it, that hurt. Because he wasn't wrong." We talked for hours. About the choice he made to stay with my mom, about the nights he lay awake wondering if I'd find out someday. He said the hardest part was when people would comment that I didn't look like him, and he'd have to laugh it off like it was nothing. Finally, I asked the question I was scared of. "Do you still see me as your son?" He leaned forward, tears in his eyes, and said, "You've always been my son. Nothing will ever change that. Not DNA. Not Mark. Not anything." And I cried. I actually broke down and cried in front of him, the man I thought I'd never shed tears around. Because as much as I felt betrayed, as much as I hated the secrecy, he was right, he was my dad. And part of me was terrified of losing him to this whole mess. The next week was a blur of confusion. I went back and forth between my mom, my dad, and Mark. It was like living 3 different lives. With my mom, it was guilt and apologies. She cooked my favorite meals, tried to sit with me, tried to explain herself over and over. But it always ended the same, me sitting there stiff, nodding, and then leaving before I said something I'd regret. With my dad, it was this awkward dance of love and anger. I wanted to forgive him, but every time I looked at him, I remembered the secret he kept for 24 years. And with Mark, it was something else entirely. I started meeting him more often. At first it was just coffee, then lunch, then one evening I actually drove him to the hospital for a checkup because he wasn't feeling strong enough to go alone. Sitting in that waiting room with him, watching him struggle to breathe after walking a short distance, something cracked in me. This man, my biological father, was dying. And whether I liked it or not, I was all he had left to connect to. One day, he handed me a shoebox. Inside were photos, letters, little mementos. A drawing I made when I was 6 that I don't even remember giving him. A napkin from one of my Little League games with the score scribbled on it. A program from my high school graduation. I kept everything, he said quietly. Even when I couldn't be there as your dad, I was still watching. I was still proud. I didn't know whether to hug him or scream at him. As Mark's health declined, the tension in my family only got worse. My mom begged me not to abandon my dad for Mark. My dad stayed mostly silent, but I could see the fear in his eyes every time I mentioned seeing Mark. Like he was terrified of losing me. One night, after visiting Mark in the hospital, I came home to find my mom waiting on my porch. She was crying, again. "I know I ruined everything," she said. "But please don't let this destroy you. Don't let my mistake take away the family we still have." And I just stood there, because what could I say? She was right. If I wasn't careful, this secret could burn all of us to the ground. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Mark's condition got worse. The doctor said he didn't have much time left. He asked me if I'd be willing to come to his bedside, just once more, before the end. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew what it meant. If I went, I was acknowledging him as my father in some way. I told my dad. I thought maybe he'd be angry, or beg me not to go. But instead, he just looked at me, eyes red, and said, "Go. He deserves that much. And so do you." That was the moment I realized how much he truly loved me. Because it wasn't about possession or pride. It was about me. About letting me have whatever closure I needed. So I went. When I walked into Mark's hospital room, he looked so small in that bed. Tubes, machines, the whole setup. But when he saw me, he smiled. Weak, but real. "You came," he whispered. I sat down beside him and nodded. "Yeah. I came." We talked for an hour. About everything. About nothing. About life, regrets, love, mistakes. At one point, he grabbed my hand and said, "I don't expect you to call me Dad. I don't expect you to forgive me. I want you to know that I loved you, even if I couldn't show it." I squeezed his hand and whispered, "I know." And for the first time, I meant it. He passed away 2 days later. The funeral was small. My mom and dad came. So did a handful of Mark's relatives I'd never met. It was surreal, standing there, mourning a man I barely knew, yet who literally made me. After the service, I went home with my parents. We sat in the living room together in silence. For once, there was no anger, no shouting, no guilt. Just silence. Heavy, but somehow peaceful. Finally, my dad, my real dad, in every way that matters, put his hand on my shoulder. "You're my son," he said again. "Always." And I broke down all over again. It's been a month now. Things aren't magically fixed. My relationship with my mom is still strained. Some days I can barely look at her. Other days, I catch glimpses of the woman who raised me, who loved me despite her mistakes. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her, but I'm trying. With my dad, things are complicated. But in a good way. We talk more now, about real things. I think he's relieved that the secret is finally out, even if it hurt. And as for Mark, I think about him every day. I think about the life we could have had, the relationship we never got to build. But I also think about the fact that, in the end, he told me he loved me. And maybe that's enough. So where does that leave me? Some days I still feel broken. Like my identity was shattered into a million pieces and I'm just trying to glue them back together. But other days, I feel stronger. Because I realize I don't have to choose between the two men. One gave me life, the other gave me a childhood. And both, in their own flawed ways, loved me. Maybe that's enough. If you're reading this and you've ever had your family secrets blown up in your face, I don't know if there's a right way to handle it. All I know is you can't run from it. You have to face it, even if it breaks you. Because only then can you start putting yourself back together. And maybe, just maybe, you come out of it knowing who you really are. The end.